Alrighty, here we go. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. I have specials on everything. Check out the website. Get at me on Instagram at Norm at Oak Ridge Ford, and I will certainly look after you the same way we look after you when it comes to your Leaf content. Mike in Buffalo, NJ in LDN is a Wednesday night, December 6th, 2023. We are working our way towards Christmas and counting down the hours until the next Maple Leafs game. Mike, it seems like forever since that, defeat to the Boston Bruins in overtime. William Nylander giving up the puck at center ice. And, of course, Brad Marchand has to stick it into the Leafs' craw yet again. Yeah. But in the meantime, the Leafs not only lose that game, but lose a defenseman who we all kind of thought was going to be a stalwart when it comes to the power play with the big shot and help stabilize things and move things forward. He's gone, adding to the Leafs' defensive woes. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Norm. It's a sad end to somebody really didn't even get started with the Leafs. Klingberg, I had hopes because I've seen him play a long time with Dallas. I saw what he did in the bubble with the Stars, leading them to the Stanley Cup final, him and Miro Heiskanen. He's a top-end offensive talent, but he got slightly injured during the preseason, and then apparently the hip problem that he's had off and on in his career really reared its ugly head in the game against the Florida Panthers in October, and it really fell apart from there. He tried to tough it through. It wasn't working. We saw how bad he was playing. I mean, if he can't skate, I mean, his penchant is to skate himself out of trouble. Defensively, he's on a Justin Hall level, but the thing is that he's able to escape and create being an offensive defenseman, and he wasn't able to do that anymore. So the news that came down today that Brad Treliving announced that he's going to have season-ending hip surgery doesn't come as a surprise.
Right.
It does give the Leafs some cap relief in terms of long-term injury, and now they're able to go out and get a defenseman. But I caution everybody. This is not where the Leafs were last year, and this is not the mentality that the Leafs have had in the past. This is a flawed team. This is a team, as you've seen so far through 20 some odd games. They have the second least amount of regulation wins in the NHL. They have played, I think it's 10 overtime or shootout games, and they've been successful. But this is not a team where they are right now, and granted they're short three defensemen,
right,
that is a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. They're a playoff team with the talent that they have, but there's questions in goal, there's questions on the blue line, there's questions up front. And when you have that many questions, you're not a serious Stanley Cup contender.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. I can get you into an F-150 with a bunch of money off, about $8,500, plus a good 3.9% interest rate through 48 months. At Norman Oak Ridge Ford on Instagram. I promise you right now, and I promise you forever, anytime you reach out to me when it comes to your vehicle needs, whether you're in Southwestern Ontario, Eastern Ontario, the rest of Canada, even the United States, I'll give you some advice. I will take care of you. We do this with your Leafs content on a weekly basis. I do this with your vehicle content hour in and hour out. David Hillman's here. Thank you very much, my friend, for being on the combo on a Wednesday night. We've got Matthew Tanti. Hey, just finished listening to the last pod, bonus midweek pod. This is a great day, gentlemen. Matthew, don't call me Tony. Tanti's in the mix. Mike V. Michael Norman, good evening. Happy Shohei Ohtani signs with the Jays. Eve. Don't bring that up in front of our friend, Mr. Augello, who is more in on the Yankees than he is on the Maple Leafs. You pick any NHL team out there that Mike has vitriol for, times that by 1,000, and you can apply his mentality towards the Blue Jays. Mr. Augello does not like Canada's baseball club at all.
Nope.
No, he absolutely does not. But he still puts up with me, and I appreciate it. Putting on the con in the Leafs combo. Sup, Norman, Mr. Augello. Evening, Cripps, Danny Grinnick. Evening, boys, and of course, it's nice to have you guys with us. Mike, with all the adversity going on right now, it's not a comfortable situation for fans. It's certainly not a comfortable situation for the team. It's not a comfortable situation for how we lay out content, but it's keeping the team honest. A team that really needs some self-awareness right now. It's not ideal, but in the long run, this is probably necessary to get this team to look inward again and, once and for all, realize its pitfalls and the things that hold it back. We all know it. They have to know it. And until this is overcome and until this team is developed the right way, as you said, it's not winning a Stanley Cup. And I hate to poo-poo on everybody's party, but let's be honest, guys. If we're supposed to understand hockey, we really, really, really need to sink our teeth into this reality.
Well, I think the most important thing that is to be discovered and gathered from this season is the young players that are playing on the team now and the young players that are coming, how good they are, and based on where they fill in, what this team will need going forward. We have said ad nauseum, probably over the last 20 years since the Pat Quinn era, about this team's defense. And right now, you've got Morgan Rielly, who I think is a legitimate top pairing all-star defenseman. But really, other than TJ Brody, you've got a lot of unknowns. I mean, Jake McCabe, okay. Timothy Liljegren, I think, can be good. And Giordano is 40 years old.
Connor Timmins,
if he can stay healthy, he's got a lot of ability. But there's a lot of question marks. When this defense is completely healthy, they're still average. And you do not see average defenses win Stanley Cups. Now, you could say, well, Pittsburgh's defense in 2017 was average when they didn't have Letang and Ron Hainsey was their best defenseman. They had Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin.
Right.
And they had Matt Murray and Marc-Andre Fleury in goal. So, that's the exception to the rule. Every other team that has won the Stanley Cup over, I'd say, the last decade has had a defense that has been at least 3 and maybe 4 deep in, I would say, quality defensemen. And this team right now has 1. So, I think the marching orders for Brad Treliving over the next, say, 12 months, if he can get a defenseman like, say, Chris Tanev, who we've heard the name a lot over the last few weeks, if he can trade for Chris Tanev and get him signed to a contract, then I don't think that there's a problem with trading assets to get him. But if he's a pure rental, then why waste the assets? Sign him in July. Sign Zadorov in July. Yeah. I don't think this team is winning a Stanley Cup. And of course, I will go the next step that nobody else wants to go. But if this team is in a playoff spot, but that position that I just mentioned is realistic, then I have no problem trading William Nylander at the deadline, because right. I don't think if they don't have him signed to a contract by March the 8th, which is the deadline, I trade him. I don't think a lot of people want to say that. I don't think Leaf fans, everybody wants to sign him. Everybody wants to keep the band together. Right. Okay. But he's got to commit, and he's got to commit at a number that this team thinks is a fair number, and his representation think is a fair number. If they're wanting to get every last dollar, get it someplace else. And if I'm the Leafs, get as much as you can for him, because if they trade him, he's the most valuable commodity on this trade market before March the 8th.
Well, you know how polarized Leaf fans are and how bipolar they are when it comes to their perception of what's going on. Prior to the big global thing in Sweden, William Nylander was the best player on the planet. Since then, he's been relatively average, which is his right. And, again, you don't have to be absolutely phenomenal every single night to, in totality, put together a phenomenal season, which it looks like he's going to do. At the end of the day, whether he's endeared himself to many a Leaf fan, or he's still the guy we think is to be leveraged for a player of his ilk, but situated on a different part of the ice, remains to be seen. OG's Conference, where I stand on this. I don't care about any of these cats individually. I just want the team to succeed. And right now, the way this team is comprised and put together, it still leaves a lot to be desired. And I use that phrase consistently, it's just so damn true, right? That said, the adversity that's the Leafs are facing right now is, for me, it's a joy to watch, right? I don't see this team winning a Stanley Cup, but maybe it surprises me as Brad Treliving makes moves, and as guys find their way, and Joseph Wall comes to the fore as the number one, and the team's focus shifts from just being just this offensive juggernaut to a team that's really puts the emphasis on defense first. If that can take place and guys start to dial back some of the individual numbers they've been putting up, but the team is winning better, it's a tough, it's a long road to go down and try to be successful on. And that's a lot to ask of a group that really is not built to do that. But that's what I'm hoping it can accomplish as the season continues on. And Mike, as I've said to you before, either before the show or during the show, the adversity and the humility, these are things that I want to see from a team that's done a lot of great things, but really hasn't done the thing we all want it to do, and certainly that it has not done, as a group. A few more points from you, Mike, and we'll get out of here. We'll look forward to some games coming up over the next couple of days, and we'll set up for the Sunday Spectacular.
Well, I look at this team right now, and you mentioned Wall, and I think the last stretch where he has played very well at home, especially in overtime, in the shootout. I mean, the only reason he made a save on a breakaway, then a secondary save before Marchand scored the goal against Boston. Granted, the go-ahead goal late in the third period was regrettable, but I think he's played over this stretch. I think he has shown that he can be a number one goaltender. Right. So, that's encouraging, but I really think that the things that can be gathered the most, that are the most important, we know what Matthews is. We know what Marner is. We know what Tavares is. We know what Nylander is. We know what Riley is.
Right.
What is Matthew Nyes? What is Nick Robertson?
Yep.
What is Joseph Wall? What is Timothy Leofgren? It's the players inside the organization. What are they and how good can they be? I'm not saying don't go out and add anybody, but it's got to be somebody cheap, or it's got to be somebody who you can keep for a number of years. And if you can do that, then that's valuable. But I think right now you don't go out and trade your first round pick in 2024 for a guy who's a rental. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So, I think that this team will make the playoffs. I think they'll be in the top 3 in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, but this is a tough division. Detroit is a lot better. By the way, I watched Detroit play in Buffalo last night. You know who was a 7th defenseman and a healthy scratch? A guy who's making $3.25 million this year, who was signed to a multi-year contract. Gee, do you think they discovered he sucks? Because he didn't play.
Tell everybody who it is, Mike.
Oh, no. 09 Max has got it. I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to tarnish.
That's unreal.
There you go.
For all of the positive forward movement the Wings have made, signing a guy like Justin Hall is a step back. Like, for God's sakes, that's just throwing money at somebody who can lace them up.
But you know what? That team has improved. Yzerman, I'm sure he got marching orders over the summer to make some moves to get that team in the playoffs. And now they've added Patrick Kane on top of adding DeBrincat, on top of adding Comfer and Petrie. They're a very solid team. So it's going to be a battle between Toronto, Boston. But I think Boston will finish in first. It's going to be a battle between Toronto, Detroit, Tampa, and Florida for those 2 spots. And I honestly think that the other 2 are going to end up in the wild card. Right. So I think all of them will make the playoffs. But it's just a question of where. So Mike V is asking about Mario Ferraro. Good.
Yeah, I've seen some reports about him.
Yeah, good defenseman. I believe he's making $3.2 million for another 2 years. But San Jose is not going to give him away. $3.25 million. Now, I think right now, I believe he's a left shot. They need right-handed defensemen. And really, if you look at now, Zadorov, they would have acquired him because he's big and tough, and that's what Treliving likes. But the right side of their blue line if they don't re-sign TJ Brody, which I'm not sure whether they will, but I don't think he's going to make $5 million anywhere. But right now, Timmins is a right shot defenseman, but he's got to prove that can stay healthy. Right. Liljegren is a right hand defenseman, and Brody, now McCabe can't play, but they need a right hand shot to play with Morgan Rielly. And I'm pretty sure Ferrero is a lefty. So I think that that's why Tanev is such an attractive possibility, because he would be the perfect complement to Rielly. And I think they'll target him in the summer, but it depends on what Calgary is looking for to get him. I'm not trading Fraser Minton or Easton Cowan or any of these guys for a rental. And I don't know if I'm trading them for a guy that I can sign, because those are good young prospects.
Today's game, Mike, you really have to put the emphasis on the goaltending, put the emphasis on the defense, and then build out from there. I mean, Connor McDavid's a cautionary tale. Austin Matthews is another cautionary tale. And I'm not saying these guys are dead and gone. We know that. They're entering their prime. And one of these two cats, if not both, could be hoisting Stanley Cups over their head. Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks, there's no way that this young man is the one who leads the team to the promised land. And go back to Pat Kane and Jonathan Taves. They had a great defensive group. The goaltending was a bit of a revolving door, but the defense was so good, and the mindset was just so locked into playing 200-foot hockey that they were just so damn successful for so long. The way the Leafs have been built so top heavy, I mean, it permeates today. The reverberation of the way it was built 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's echoes of all the philosophy that was set in place almost a decade back today. And what is the result? What we're seeing right now. I mean, Boston first in the Atlantic, 37 points. Detroit 31. So they're in the mix. The Florida Panthers, of course, Eastern Stanley Cup Finals in the mix, 30 points. The Leafs, 28 points. Could they play better? Absolutely. I mean, but are they that much better? The way that they're constructed, maybe not. Tampa's there. The Canadians are going to fight hard. The Bruins aren't too. Like that entire division. I mean, it's a mishmash, and that's again going back to the humility that needs to be established with a group that is not as good as it probably thought it was. That's a good thing. It's resetting and kind of self-effacing, ideology of where are we today and how can we, leap beyond where we've been? Because if we don't make change, we're not going to get much better. Mike, what's going on at HockeyBuzz.com?
Well, I was actually going to address the name that 09 Max mentioned, Rasmus Ristolainen.
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
And I'm probably going to write about that tomorrow for Hockey Buzz. I mean, there are rumors out there about Ristolainen. The thing is, he just came back from a lengthy, I think it was a concussion situation. There was some talk that he might not play at all this year because he was having concussion symptoms. Now, I've seen him a long time in Buffalo. He's a big right-hand defenseman, physical. The problem is he signed, I believe, for 4 more years at $5.5 million. If Philadelphia is looking to trade him, 1, I need to see that he can stay healthy longer. And 2, I need Philadelphia to retain salary because I don't think he's a $5.5 million defenseman. I think they paid him to stay, and they paid him more to stay. So if he's cost effective and if he's not expensive, then sure. But I think they're looking for young assets for a guy who's got a lot of question marks. That's why I would sort of steer clear.
And whether it's Ferrero, whether it's Zadorov, whether it's Ristolainen, these guys are help.
Yes,
it's not the team needs wholesale revamping from the most important part of the ice out and back. Right, LM Leafs core seemed to melt when the going gets tough, and then to contrast that 09 Max, the Leafs dominated the Bruins last Saturday. They let Pasternak skate around like he was Gretzky. That pisses me off. So again, appearances can be deceiving.
I don't think they let Pasternak walk around like he's Gretzky. Pasternak walks around because he's one of the best players in the league. He's that good. Him and Marchand on that team. I mean, okay, you can hate them as much as you want, and a lot of people do, but that team has remained a contender for the last 12, 13 years because they had good players, not the best players, but they had good players. They play a system and they're disciplined. The Leafs might have better individual talent, and it's not on the coaching staff, but their individual talent, they want a free wheel and play offense and wide open. And when they do play defense, they still make errors. So, I mean, that's the thing with the Leafs right now.
Liljegren, what's going on with him?
Skating. It's a high ankle sprain. It sounds like he'll probably be back in a couple weeks, but they're taking it slow. The last thing they want is him to have a re-injury. Right now, they need him back. And Giordano probably is not going to be back until the new year. So you're going to have to plug your nose and watch William Lagesson and Simon Benoit the next few weeks.
So, we hated Detroit because they won. We hated Chicago because they won. We didn't like Sidney Crosby and his group of goons because they won. Why do people dislike the Maple Leafs? Because the fucking fan base is a bunch of arrogant assholes and the team projects like it's a champion and hasn't won shit. But that's the thing. I don't want to be disliked because I think I'm better than I actually am. Hate me because I win and because I'm awesome. Now, with Brad Marchand, look, the guy won a title in 2011. That was 14 years ago. Boston, look, they had an amazing season last year, kind of came out of nowhere. You can debate whether this guy is really, truly a winner or he's still living off what they accomplished over a decade ago. But at the end of the day, they have a ring and they do have some swagger. What do the Leafs have? Look, Mike, when I was younger, I always thought it was a superiority complex mixed with a bit of inferiority. I always felt like we deserved more respect, but we were the damn mighty Leafs, and that's how I felt about it. All these years later, at 47 years of age, I'm exasperated from the lack of any kind of success. I'm just, my perspective has changed. Really, what are we? Like, why should I keep banging the drum about being the capital of hockey and all that shit when we've won fuck all? And the team that we have up there, they're great guys and they're individually amazing players. And, they flex, they look great with their outfits. And, they have lots of individual fans, but they haven't done shit.
Well,
and that's the thing. You got to win, man.
I think the Leafs are hated in a lot of areas, Western Canada, because they're more popular than some of the teams. They're more popular than Calgary. They're more popular.
But are we just like what does that matter anymore, Mike? That was kind of fun.
It matters to them
when we had nothing else to.
It matters to them. I mean,
right.
Why do you think they're hated so much in Buffalo? Because 15,000 Leaf fans come down the QEW.
That's nothing new. But I know. You and we should be able to at least cut through all of the pomp and pageantry and realize, look, it's great to have a big fan base because you're a major team and you are essentially the capital of hockey. We all understand that. But beyond that bravado, beyond that reality, what is you can't really equate what the Leafs do with what the reality of the geographics are and the demographics are. They're not one and the same, Mike. It's that the Leafs are situated there, and they have not one representative with what kind of support they have, and that's really damn frustrating. And the Yankees have been on that run since 2009.
I was actually going to make that comparison. It's like because you've got a super large fan base. Now obviously the Yankees last won 14 years ago, and have won 27 world championships, but in the modern era, I mean, right. They won 77, 78, and then the 4 in the 90s in 2000, but then one championship in 2009. I think Leaf fans would kill for that many championships, even if it was 15 years ago. It's right. The 1967 thing. But I think the fact that other than spikes, other than 77 and 78, other than 93 and 94, other than under Pat Quinn, this organization has been under the Ballard era and at times since then a joke of an organization. Now they're better now. They're more respected now.
Right.
They have a fan base that is extremely loyal, and I think that in other fan bases they don't understand why Leaf fans are as loyal as they are to an organization who has broken their heart so many times. It's understandable in Buffalo because we have the Bills and we have the Sabres, and it's the same sort of thing. They're brothers brothers from a different mother, so to speak. But I just think right now, as they're currently constituted, they are a slightly above average team with a lot of holes. They're not going to win the Stanley Cup this year. I think Brad Treliving recognizes that, and I think he realizes that probably over the next year to 2 years, he's going to fill those holes and make this team a more complete team.
09 Max, Mike, I also heard Labushkin is on the radar.
He's on the market.
ZM93 Zach, JFJ ruined the organization for a decade. JFJ! Oh my God. Remember when he got hired and how Pat Quinn was just like, the end is coming for me.
Yeah, no. I mean, JFJ ruined the team in the sense of giving all the no trade clauses, but that's, if they're still relying on the excuse of John Ferguson Jr., then no, it's not.
Mike, it's a throwback. The beat goes on, and again, I'd rather this team fight its way through a regular season and maybe leave a little bit more to be desired that can be realized when it matters the most, as opposed to having an all-world regular season and going splat in the playoffs. We've seen the latter. The former, that's what's transpiring right now, and I think that's what will continue to happen as we go forward. The team solidifies its place in the playoffs and maybe quietly goes in as a bit of an underdog and makes some things happen, and then we reset in the off season. Mike, William Nylander, sure, you want to be able to parlay him for something, but I doubt they're going to trade him. No. Maybe him walking at the end of the day, not being able to accrue any assets back is a difficult thing, but him walking for more money elsewhere and the Leafs now able to devote that kind of money to where they really need to put it. If that's how it all shakes out, so be it. There's been a lot worse that's happened in the organization. Unless you have anything else to say, Mike, I'm going to shut her down. OG's Converts, like the content, subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for your recent interaction in the community portion of the Leafs Convo channel on YouTube. Our latest poll: will the Leafs ever get on a legitimate roll? Mike, this is like literally cut right down the middle. 172 points. The question: will the Leafs ever get on a legitimate roll? 51% say yes. 49% say no.
That's definitive.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitive. Ryan, I'm just joining. I'm going to have to start it over. Thanks for being here, my friend. I hope you subscribe, really. Enjoy the games to come, guys. We'll catch you on the Sunday Spectacular in a few days. For Mike, I'm Norm. We're out.